How's it going, everybody? This will be my video presentation for Aviation 325. We were given a few options to choose from, and I chose a VFR Sectional, something we all have to make sure we know when we're ready for our check ride. I'm going to be using the visual aid of an actual VFR Sectional Chart, which is my local area, the Miami Sectional, and I'm just going to be going over a few things that we should all know, and maybe you might learn a couple things. But yeah, let's get started. All right, so I've got my sectional out, and I guess we'll start off with some Victor Airways, which you can see here. They're the light blue lines. So right here, for example, Victor Airways 601. Victor Airways run in between VORs, and they start at 1,200 feet AGL all the way up to flight level 180. They're 8 nautical miles wide. We can use them when we're navigating VFR and both IFR. More common IFR though. Normally you would see on a low end route, you'd see your changeover points and minimum crossing altitudes and other things regarding those Victor Airways, but they're still very useful to us as VFR pilots and can help us navigate if we're in an area we're unfamiliar with. Let's see, we'll go over to our ROCA, which is another common thing we use for IFR, so our off-route obstacle clearance altitude. So when flying anywhere in a quadrant on the map, there will be a number stating the highest obstacle in that area plus 500 feet, and that's going to give us a nice buffer in between whatever we're flying near. And that's the 500 feet, I believe, is actually for your low end route, and then for your VFR, that'll be the actual. So there's that, and that's another thing that's nice to keep in mind. Definitely a little bit more useful for your IFR, but still good to know and write down if you're planning across country for VFR. Next thing I'll discuss is our VORs. So we have our compass roses, like for example, we have LaBelle over here. We have Pahokee, and then down here, which is our local regional airport, RSW. So each VOR is a little bit different. There are your terminal VORs, your low VFRs, and your highs. So each one's a little bit different. To find out exactly which one is which, you can use your supplement in the chart to help you find out, and then you'll know how powerful each one of these VORs is. So that's something nice to keep in mind. Another thing that we can use regarding our chart supplement is our special use airspaces. So for example, Lake Placid, the East MOA, military operations area. We have restricted areas. And I know somewhere along this coast we have some prohibited areas regarding the NASA space station. But pretty much you don't want to really go through your prohibited and restricteds. It's kind of, frowned upon, but you can get permission through the restricted. Your MOAs, you can check the active times in the chart supplement. You can always refer to your flight service station and contact the actual controller for that region and figure out the times and everything like that. And make sure your chart's always up to date so you know the current times. They might update regarding each season, whether it's winter or summer training for those MOAs and alert areas. It might be a little bit different each time. Another thing we can go over is Bravo airspace. So we do have up here, we have Tampa. I have Miami down there on the bottom. I have to flip the map over, but I have Tampa up here, and you can see we have many different sections of the Bravo airspace. It's cut all over the place, and each one is fitting to its surrounding area. So, it works out to get planes in and out, and they have the different altitudes for the airspace regarding where the airport is. So we have up here, we have Tampa International, and then we have all these different layers, and each one of those layers is just the new the airspace itself, but at different heights. And then to the very outside, you can see right here, we have our Mode C 30 nautical mile ring. And that is the distance at which you must have at least a Mode C transponder to enter that area. And that's one of the things you must have to enter the Bravo airspace. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you're flying VFR or IFR. All right, another thing we can go over is all this yellow. A lot of yellow here, a lot of yellow here. Got Miami over here, West Palm Beach. A lot of yellow. All that yellow is a populated area, or you could say a congested area, at which you must fly at least 1,000 feet above the ground. So pretty much anytime you're gonna see yellow, if you're trying to use this for a visual reference, you can look down and you'll see a lot of houses or a lot of buildings all put really close to each other. And more than likely, that's gonna be a residential area. And you can see Tampa is a huge residential area. So you'll be able to see that very clearly whenever you're flying VFR. Then another thing we can go over is, as you can see up here, so we have blue for the Air Force Base, blue for Albert Whitted, blue for Sarasota. You come out here, we have a private airport, which is magenta, Wauchula, magenta. Down here we have Arcadia, magenta. So the difference between those two is the fact that the blue ones are towered. And then we have down here, we have our magentas. They're non-towered. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're planning on shooting an approach or staying in contact with ATC your whole flight, if you have a flight that's going to a non-towered airport, that's something to consider. Especially if you're flying an approach at night and you need the assistance of ATC, you're only going to get it so far to the ground, and then you're going to lose communications depending on where you are, but more than likely it's going to end right around 1,000 feet wherever you're going to want it to be. So something to keep in mind, but just a few things, the VFR sectional that maybe we haven't seen in a while. I know a lot of us have probably worked on the low-end route, so it's nice to come back to the beginner map. All right, well, thank you very much. Have a good one.